was the eSports Talk Show. I have along with me Nishant, ClouDx, Patel. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Ranjit. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem, man. And so I guess starting off with questions. I have a lot of questions for you, but I'm going to start off with an easy one. Talking about the journey of gamers, how did you start off with gaming?
So, like most people my age, I started off with this thing called the Mitashi Little Master. It was this really big console with a really small cartridge, and they advertised themselves as 9,999 games in one cartridge. Obviously, being the dumb kid that I was, I forced my parents to buy it for me, and that's where my gaming journey began. My competitive gaming journey actually started with Counter-Strike, believe it or not. I played Counter-Strike at a local gaming cafe one day. My cousin brothers and I went in, decided to play some multiplayer Counter-Strike, and that was the first time all of our minds were blown, because you can play multiplayer on multiple screens as opposed to the old split screen that we had on our old CRT TV.
Well, that's something, when I experienced for the first time, I was blown away as well, because, it's just a lot of new power in your hands. But, getting back to the second question, all of us have stories behind our names. For me, Mamba has a story as well, but what about ClouDx?
So, Cloud and X are actually two separate parts of the name, and not many people know this. The X is not an X, it's a multiplier. Cloud is essentially the character from one of my all-time favorite games, Final Fantasy VII. And the X is something that we came up with while I was actually playing competitive Dota back in 2005, 2006. Every time we won a tournament, my teammates had this brilliant idea that we're going to put a multiplier at the end of our name. So you won one tournament, it's Cloud 1X. You won two tournaments, Cloud 2X. I don't want to brag, but we won so much that eventually we had to get rid of the multiplier number, and it just stayed as an X.
That's just really, brutal. But nonetheless, talking about your career as a player and as a caster as well. So when comparing it, being a player and being a caster, how does it differ?
I'd say being a player was a much more casual and relaxing experience for me, because when we played, the esports scene wasn't what it is today. We never really thought playing video games could be a career for us back then. And when we played, we essentially just played for fun and to make a little bit of pocket money on the side while we're going to college. But today I can gladly say that gamers have an opportunity to make money if they're actually good at playing video games. To put things in perspective, about 76 lakhs was paid out as prize money in just the last year alone. And this year, there's about 1 crore of prize money already announced. As a caster, it gives me a lot of pride to say that I'm at most of these events, commentating the events and hyping up the entertainment for the crowd. But it's something I treat more of as a job, as opposed to playing games when I was competing.
That makes sense. And, you've pretty much become the face of Indian Dota 2 community. So, and you've been attending all the events as well. So, when talking about the recent wins, how has your experience been, and what are your top 3 most memorable events in the history of Indian esports?
Of course, of Indian esports. So, my most memorable events, I would say, number 1 is Dew Arena, no doubt. That was by far the most fun event I've been at. Not only because of the quality of games, but also because of the production value and the venue, man. Who does an esports event at Kingdom of Dreams? That blew my mind. The second most memorable would probably be the recently concluded ESL India Premiership LAN that happened in Mumbai. Again, biased because I'm Mumbai based, and it's great to see crowds turning up for esports in my own city. And my third favorite event would probably be a tie between the Delhi Masters for the ESL India Premiership or the India Game Show. The India Game Show was amazing because even though it wasn't really a competition, it was just show matches. You have an esports and a gaming crowd filling up Pragati Maidan's hall to the point where the bouncers actually have to stop people from coming in. That, in my books, is a big win for Indian esports.
And on top of it, it was something that the government was involved with as well. So that just adds up to the joy of having an event going on like that. But talking about the community and the way it has been growing over the years, where do you see the Indian community going in the next 2 years?
So I've always been so the way I see it, there's 2 ideologies. One is the pull ideology, one is the push ideology. The pull ideology essentially believes that we're eventually going to have such big tournaments over here in India that teams from abroad, players from abroad, talent from abroad are going to start coming in to cash in on this economy. The push ideology, on the other hand, believes that one of our teams or a couple of our teams are going to get so good that they'll go out there and make waves in the international circuit. I personally believe the pull ideology is the direction we're headed in. Don't get me wrong, it would be great if an Indian team could perform to international standards and win abroad. But the way we're growing right now, it feels like businesses, brands, sponsors, and intermediaries like yourself and I are the ones that are going to get esports to the next level in the country. And 2 years later, I wouldn't be surprised if India is a destination for premier esports events, just like we have it for cricket.
Well, that would be pretty amazing, to be honest. And talking about the teams again, what is your take on the Indian CS:GO and Dota 2 teams? What do you think are the pros and the cons?
Counter-Strike, in my opinion, is where Dota was about 2 years ago. And I don't mean that in an offensive way at all. It's just that when Dota had an opportunity like this that Counter-Strike has, we kind of blew it. What I'm referring to, of course, is the legacy that teams create with their brand names. So when I say Counter-Strike in India today, a couple of team names like Brutality, Entity Gaming, Dare to Dream, and a few others come to mind immediately. When you say Dota in India, there is practically one name that comes to mind, which is Entity Gaming. This wasn't the case just a couple of years ago. You had Beyond Infinity, Invisible Wings, each with their own die-hard fans that were fighting and flaming each other on the internet. Before that, you had guys like Neckbreak, you had guys like BFK, all these teams that were in the Indian scene that actually stuck around for a while and made real fans. The problem is these teams kept disbanding, reforming. Some players went here, some players wore a new brand tag the other day. The lack of loyalty is essentially what caused fans to really get upset with Indian Dota. And while there may be a lot of players in the scene today, they're just not interested in watching what's happening in the game. But going forward with Signify coming out and with Entity coming out, I think we're back on the right track, and we should see some great competitive Southeast Asia tier competitive Dota within India itself. And that in itself is enough of motivation for fans and viewers to rally behind.
Well, thanks for the answer, but we are going to go on a really, really short commercial break. Do not go anywhere. We will be back after this commercial, and we still have a lot more questions. We have rapid fire round as well, which we haven't played with Nishant, and he's, I guess, pretty nervous about that. No, not really. He never really gets nervous in front of the cameras. He has been doing that for his entire life, but nonetheless, we are going to go on a short break, and once we're back, we are going to carry on with the questions. With experts, my name is Mamba. I have Nishant is with me, ClouDx, and talking about ROG Masters now. Since we're sitting in their office, but talking about ROG Masters 2017, they have announced it. We've seen it happen last year as well. And before I ask you a question, we are quickly going to go in and watch the trailer. But before that, let me tell you guys on the chat on Facebook that we are going to take a few questions from the chat. So if you guys have any questions, do let us know in the chat. We'll try and answer them to the best of our abilities. And well, before that, we are going to go on we are going to go and look at the trailer for ROG Masters 2017. And I have a question for you on how do you think it is going to pan out?
In the vents, and the terrorists are going to run into the crossfire. Look at that shooting gallery. Malta with 3 kills. Oh, what? Oh, God. Oh!
Jump into the back and they found a couple that killed off one into the Oracle dead, and now they found tools as well. There's no ice blast. Look at Sven cleaving through 1 and 2.
So it's faded out.
Oh no, Sven, no!
He jumped on the replica and BKB and the storm!
Right, so we've seen the trailer. Everyone on the stream has seen the trailer. So, talking about Masters 2017, what do you think about it? What are your expectations from the tournament, and what do you think about the new new method of selecting teams from all the countries?
So, I mean, the format is grueling. It's unique, no doubt, but it's absolutely grueling, man. So, to put some perspective on this, for an Indian team to make it to the main event, you first have to win cafe level qualifiers across cities in India, or you can play an open online qualifier. Then you got to compete versus some of the best teams in South Asia, that is Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and India. And then you got to compete with some of the teams in Southeast Asia to actually get to the main event. So it's no free lunches. The last time around, it was a lot easier for an Indian team to make it to the main event, and unfortunately, there's no sugarcoating it. We got whooped over there. I do like the fact that the format has added one more layer between the main event and the qualifiers, where you now have to prove yourself versus the best in Southeast Asia. And respect where it's due. If a team does manage to do that from India, they definitely deserve to be at the main event.
Well, do you have a prediction which team is going to make it to the main stage? At least from the country.
From the country, I'm probably going to get robbed. I'm going to rob a lot of people the wrong way here, and a lot of people are going to get triggered. But I don't think an Indian team is going to make it to the main event. But however, that said, for the South Asia qualifier, I think we're going to see Signify and possibly Entity Gaming. I believe there are 4 slots for Indian teams at the South Asia qualifier, so I think we'll see both of them there.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. And well, we still have a lot more questions, but are you cheering for a specific team, or is it just all the Indian teams?
I would cheer for, of course, I cheer for the Indian teams first and foremost. But if an Indian team doesn't make it to the main event, I'm a puppy fanboy, man. I'm probably going to cheer for Team Secret on the Dota stage.
Well, nonetheless, we are going to go on a very short break again, because after this we have our last segment, that is a rapid fire round. So we are going to go on a really, really short break. Don't go anywhere. Alright, we're back again, and welcome to ASUS ROG eSports with Experts. And now it is time for the rapid fire round. Now, I have 7 questions for you, and you're going to have to answer them really, really quickly.
Let's do this.
Are you stoked, or are you like, man?
I'm ready. Bring it on, man.
Alright, man. Favorite Indian team?
Not a biased caster, no favorites.
Rager or chiller?
A bit of both, more of a chiller.
Dota 2 or Pizza?
Dota 2.
Alright, upcoming casters?
For Dota, Vivek and Gambit. Vivek is actually my prodigy. And for Counter-Strike, there's yourself, there's Archie, and yeah, that's it. I don't want to count Blair's upcoming anymore. That guy's
He's in the game, man. I mean, let's not even talk about it. He's not your nation anymore. But
Idle.
it just gets me, never mind. But alright, last hero you played with?
Meepo. I lost.
I'm sorry. Nutella or banana?
Probably both, since I'm trying to put on weight.
Yeah, I mean, you could use it, but it's still okay.
His arms are made of steel.
Probably ask Venom about that, but right. So done with the rapid fire session. We only had 7 questions. I didn't really want to put a lot of pressure on Nishant, but
Appreciate it, man.
Do you have any shout outs to make before we sign off?
Yes, I do actually. Shout out to everyone that works behind the scenes at afkgaming.com. You guys are awesome. You guys really make the wheels turn at the company, and without you guys, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, have your Twitter handle. You guys, you want people to follow you on?
Sure, I'm at the real ClouDx on Twitter and Facebook.
Right, so that is it from our side. It is going to be Nishant and Mamba. Ranjit signing off until the next time.